I was fired from a corporate job. It was one of the most demoralizing, tough career experiences of my life. And I'll walk you through what happened and the 3 things I learned. And I will spoil the ending a bit. After I was terminated, I ended up landing my dream job. The company was amazing. The role was perfect. The salary was way higher. And so how did I go from down in the dumps to top of my game? I will tell you in this video. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm Madeline Mann. I'm a human resources and career strategist. You may have seen me in all of these places, new videos on Thursdays. This story goes back to early in my career. This termination happened many years ago. I had landed this job. I was so eager. It was at a company I adored. I loved all of my coworkers. The product was really inspiring. I was doing good work, or as I thought. But as I was working very hard, my manager was just consistently unimpressed and also disappointed by my output. I would make mistakes. The work quality wouldn't be quite what she wanted. And I felt like I was constantly running in place, trying to impress her and impress others, but never getting very far. For example, she once asked me to send out contracts to employees, but I had to edit the contracts to have their name, their information on it first, and then email it out. I said, no problem, consider it done. I'm hard at work doing it, and then I just start firing these contracts out there. I'm pretty much done with the task when she looks over and sees my work and says, oh, you send Word documents? You're supposed to send PDFs. If it's a contract, you send PDFs so that they can't edit the contract. I felt terrible. I had to redo all of the work. I just felt like the goalposts of what I need to do for this job, it felt like they kept moving. But also, I always felt like it was my fault. I would make silly mistakes, leaving certain people off of emails, making typos. And I just told to myself, okay, Madeline, you just aren't detail-oriented at all. You're really bad at this. She was a good manager. So we had multiple performance conversations where she would express her disappointment in my performance. But I knew if I just kept trying, I kept going at it, that I could make it happen. Ultimately, one day she said, Madeline, you don't get it. You're going to be terminated. I can't work with you anymore. Even when she said that, I was still, no, I can still work here. I can still do it. She said, no, it's over. Now, because we had such a good relationship, such mutual respect, we then set a last day for me. So my last day wasn't that very moment, which is more common to when someone's terminating you, that you leave that very day and that's it. You turn in your computer, adios amigos. But no, so what we did is we set an end date and I was able to really leave with dignity. On the last day, I was an absolute mess. I loved working here so much and I was just blubbering, crying everywhere. I wrote handwritten notes to nearly everyone in the office. And I remember getting ready to leave. You know, I had to just talk to her or grab an envelope from her or something. And I just stared at her and I just cried at her. And to this day, I remember her saying, and she's definitely a sweetheart. So it was pretty funny in hindsight for her to say this. She goes, this is really awkward. And even in my, scattered state, I realized, okay, I'm just gonna dip. I'm gonna stop crying at this woman. And so I was extremely embarrassed about this for a long time. I felt like I was a failure. I've never really done a video or an article on this because it's tough to talk about. But I don't think I'm alone in this experience at all. I think this has happened to many of us. And so put "it happened to me" in the comments if you can relate to this story, if some version, some piece of this relates to you. There were 3 key things I learned that I then was able to take with me for the rest of my career. The first thing was to ask questions. One thing, I look back on that experience and I see that I was terrible at asking questions. My manager would give me an assignment and I would say, right up, boss. And I would go off and do it thinking I was such a whiz kid, doing all my research, figure it out on my own, when really that would lead to disappointment down the road. What would have been great is me asking so many more questions, understanding the context of the tasks I was doing, really getting detailed about all the different steps. Because here's the thing, I don't blame my manager. What happens when you build mastery in a field is you forget all of the small, almost seemingly insignificant nuances that you learn to get to where you are. And this is not just true for this manager, it's true for pretty much anyone who has built expertise. There's just going to be little details that you need to ask about, and you need to help give them the questions so that they can give you the right answers. Now, I don't know about you, but a lot of times I didn't know what questions to ask. And so a lot of times a really great place to start is why. Why are we doing this? Who is this impacting? All of those things. I felt like too often I was saying, yes, give me that task, I will do it, instead of understanding how that task was going to impact everything. The second thing I learned is I wish I had checked in more with my manager earlier on in projects. So what I would do is, again, I would work so hard, do so much work, and then by the time it was delivered, she would look at it and say, this isn't what I wanted. So what do we do in this case? Often our managers, our leaders do not give us enough context to where we can perfectly align with their vision. So what we need to do is we need to give them something to react to early on. How do we do this? Well, you want to create a reaction document. What is a reaction document? Well, I have a full video explaining how to build one with examples and all of that, so I will link that below. But essentially, a reaction document is something that you put together fairly quickly to see if the direction you're moving in on a project aligns with the leader's vision. It's okay if what you put in your reaction document is wrong. That's actually amazing, because that was the direction you were about to follow all the way down the road when your manager really wanted you to go in the opposite direction. But you're figuring that out at the very beginning of a project versus the end. So by putting something down on a document, you're able then to get their reaction and them say, oh, no, that's not what I wanted. What I want more is this. So I wish I would have done this, right? Checked in with her, given her a few of my ideas, let her check my work early on and then complete it later. And here's the thing, is so many of us don't ask questions, we don't create reaction documents, we don't check in with our managers often because we are worried that that will make us annoying. When really, time and time again, I have seen managers love these questions. Asking questions is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you are a curious thinker and you are actually helping your boss to think less, because by giving the right questions, they're able to give you the right answers. The third thing I learned is when you're fired from a company, it's easy to feel that you're the problem, that it was all your fault, you're not good enough, no other company is going to want you. And while yes, we all need to reflect and grow and see what we can do better in the future, it's not necessarily about fixing the flower, it's about planting you in a new garden. So after the shock of what happened wore off, I hit the job search hard. And I was extremely confident in my interviews. I prepared very heavily and I rocked them. Of course, this is a channel that helps you prepare for your job interviews, so I will link below a playlist of the top interview questions, and I will also link a free worksheet to help you answer the question, tell me about yourself. That will set the tone for if you seem confident or not in a job interview. People love that worksheet, so I will link that below. So I ended up landing multiple job offers, way higher salaries, and the offer I accepted was an absolute dream. The company was incredible. The work was great. I was in a leadership position. So before I was an individual contributor and I became into a leadership position. And here's the kicker. Once I became a leader, all of those issues of me not being detail-oriented or missing things or making silly mistakes, they all evaporated. And that was because every piece of information surrounding my department came to me. I always knew the context of everything going on. So little details, little things didn't slip because I understood the whole picture and everything's value. So it would have been very easy for me to walk away from that experience, the one where I was terminated, and think, well, I'm just not good at working. I should just leave the workforce in general, blah, blah, blah. But instead, you want to find a different garden to be planted in. There is that job out there for you. I want to help you find it. It is definitely out there. That is my whole purpose. That's what I built my entire business on, is finding that alternate path for you, that elevated path, and you soaring to the absolute top. My friend, rejection is redirection. When you are redirected, make sure you soul search before you job search. Take the learnings, understand exactly what the right next step will be so that you can flourish in your next role, because so many amazing people have been fired before. That does not mean you are not an exceptional person with so much value. Now, I can do an in-depth video on how I was able to redirect, land multiple job offers after being fired. Let me know if that's of interest to you. Make the video in the comments if you like it, and if there's enough comments, I'll make it. Like this video and subscribe to this channel. You've got this. Wi-Fi high five.